Hi, I'm Mark Lucovsky. Today I'm going to be talking about the Google AJAX APIs. So let's start with Google's mission. Google's mission is to organize the world's information and to make it universally accessible and useful. The way I like to think about it, my team's job is, our job is to take all that information and make sure that you have access to it in your web apps, on your web pages, and you can make it useful and valuable to your visitors and your customers. So that's kind of what we're all about and how we relate to the overall mission statement. What we're going to talk about today is the Google AJAX APIs, but really in this talk, we're really going to focus on the AJAX Search API and the AJAX Feed API. The other big AJAX API that we have is the Maps API, and there's a whole track on programming to the Maps API. So I guess also I want to give you my feelings on AJAX. Why AJAX? And I think the number one reason why AJAX is attractive to me as a development style is it has a huge, huge base of developers. And when I think of an AJAX developer, I'm really thinking of the professional developers, the guys like you that are in this room. But I also consider the bloggers that can maybe put an HTML tag in their page. I consider them a developer. Sometimes they have multiple body tags, sometimes they have multiple head tags. They don't really know what they're doing all the time, but they're able to use APIs like this and use them very effectively and get things done. The other interesting thing about an AJAX API approach is that the APIs can run on any page, on any piece of infrastructure. So you're not going back to your server or your IT department to say, hey, let's put this little piece of functionality on our site. If you're hosted on a blog or WordPress or any one of these other page hosting environments, you can still use these APIs. You can still call maps and get videos and do search in any environment without regard to the back end. The other key point on this, and I run into it all the time, is I've had people look at some of the things that we've done and say, I want to get that on my page. I really don't know how to do it, but what I'm really more worried about is I don't want to have to talk to my IT department. So some of these guys look at an API and say, well, if it's just HTML, I can kind of sneak it under the covers. If it's just a content page, IT doesn't really care about it, and I can do it at much lower cost. If it involves any kind of programming, changes to the Java or their templates or anything like that, it can take weeks and weeks and go through bureaucracy to get something simple on their page like an interactive map. So I guess what I'd like you guys to walk away learning from this talk is, I want to show you what the search and the feed APIs can do on your pages, show you how easy these APIs are. I don't think that we have a single demo in this deck that's more than 10 lines of code. So I wanted you to get a feel for how simple it is to dress up your sites and add some of these interactive features. I'll show you the layered architecture that makes up the APIs. And I'm going to show you how powerful the APIs are, but I'm going to do that mainly in the context of a big set of advanced custom controls. And then finally, I'd like you to all walk away and actually try something. That would be a great goal at the end of this, to actually try to build a page or go sign up for a blog and put some AJAX search or AJAX feeds in there. So to start with, when most people think of search, they think of a page that looks like this. It's a page with a search form, maybe some sort of tab system to switch between properties, and then a bucket full of results and usually a bucket full of ads. So it's a great page if your goal was to go do some searching, go do some research at a destination page like Google or Yahoo or Microsoft Live, but it would be embarrassingly boring if that's what your sites had to look like in order to offer some kind of interesting search. When my team thinks about search, we think of that as a search page, and this is the kind of page that has a text-based search in the right-hand sidebar. And when you actually do a search, you get 50 different kinds of searches going on at once, and the search results spill into the center column and push the blog post down. You can have videos playing on the page, and all the videos you're finding through search, whether your customers are typing in search expressions by hand or clicking on hyperlinks on your page that drives searches to happen. Search involves mapping, and you don't want to see the text, you want to see a map and a location on the map, and you want people to understand what the center point of the map is, why that's interesting in the context of your page, and what some of your favorite places might be. I don't know how many people came from out of town and had to book a hotel, but you see, even on our Google website, I think we were guilty of this. We told you the thing is at the San Jose Convention Center, and we said, here's a half a dozen hotels, but we never on that page, while you were making a decision, said, this is where the San Jose Convention Center is, and these are the 4 hotels that we're talking about. And you could see very easily that the Fairmont is a 1.5 block walk away, and maybe one of the other recommended hotels is 8 blocks away. So we want people to be able to experience search in the context of the page that they're on. And I'll just do a quick little demo to get you a feel for what I mean by that. This is that exact blog. It's ajaxsearch.typepad.com. And you can see up at the top we have a text-based search box. I do a search, and I get web results, blog search results, site-restricted blog search results, custom search engine looking at the entire Google blogs, and then the TypePad blog. And we get this in the center column with the blog post pushed down to the bottom. And when I want to clear the search results, it starts looking like a blog again. Over here, I have a video on the page. Can you guys hear it? Oh, wait. My last conference was a Microsoft PDC. I used to work there. But anyway, you can... How many of you guys saw Sergey this morning? He behaves a little bit differently. But anyway, I have some pre-selected videos on here, Mac, whatever, but I can also search for, Paris Hilton, our team favorite here, and see videos. So as a page author, I can pick some search expressions, but I can let my users do the same. I have a map over here that happens to have the center point of the map centered on my house. You can get directions to the house and everything. But I also have underneath it, some of my favorite places, a local bike shop, a hotel, a couple different hotels. But the other thing that's interesting that I can do is in the content of my page, like in the context of a blog, I can add a hyperlink to my blog that causes a search to happen. So for instance, I might write a blog post about I went skiing at Tahoe and I stayed at this lodge. Well, now I can have a map on my blog and not only tell you where the lodge is, but also click on a link and take you to the lodge. Now, if you run a bed and breakfast, or if your clients, I guess, run bed and breakfasts or hotels or apartment complexes, and you want to make the place more attractive, a lot of times people make their lodging choices based on the site, obviously, but also what's nearby. So you might want to say, here's the hotel, here's the resort, or here's the activity, and here's the coffee shops and the Italian restaurants and the sushi places that I recommend that are nearby, and you can drive that all with a search-based approach. So when we think of search, we don't think of this as search in my team. We think of this as search in my company, but in my team, this is search to us. Feeds work the same way. We don't think of feeds as something that you look at in the context of a reader. We think of feeds as something that you program to because you're trying to do a mashup, like plot earthquakes on a map or whatever. But we also think that one element of feeds is providing useful information to your site to make your site a little bit more sticky. In this case, I have a blog that has a feed-based slideshow up in the upper right corner. And this thing is a little control. You start it with 3 or 4 lines of code, and you give it an RSS feed. And that feed, if it contains the Yahoo Media RSS extensions, we'll show the photos from that. If you have a proprietary tag format for your photos, you didn't use Media RSS, tell us what the tags are, tell us what the XML namespace and the tags are of the thumbnails in that feed, and we'll read those just as easily. So for instance, down here at the bottom, you can see screenshots from iTunes. This happens to be their new releases country feed, and we'll show you a strip of of those. You can pick, new releases, top albums, top songs, and all the different genres. Those all exist as feeds. And we'll go ahead and read the feed and show you the cover art. And if you click on those, we'll take you over to iTunes where you can complete a purchase or listen to the song. So this is a way to get people much more engaged in your site. If your site is about music or about photography or about a place that you like to visit, these APIs let you express that on the page and keep your visitors around a lot longer. We had this one customer that when we first came out with the AJAX Search API and some of the video solutions, his revenue increased 3,500% when now maybe he only made $1 a month, but he went up 3,500%. So, I'd rather have $3,500 a month than $1 a month. And all he had to do was pay a little bit of attention to his site and add a bunch of dynamic content that made his site very sticky. The videos were amazing. He had a music-oriented site, and he would show music videos related to the page that the visitor was on. So they would watch a video and stick around longer and either buy a DVD from him or click on some ads or complete some other sort of transaction. And he was able to monetize that to the tune of 3,500% increase just by adding this kind of stuff to his site. So this is just kind of a collage of all the things that are possible with AJAX search and feeds. You can see we have mapping and video and photos and books and text-based search, all kinds of solutions that are easy to add to any site. To give you a feel for how easy some of this stuff is, this is the canonical hello world of search. You create a search control. You configure the search control with, say, local, you might want local search, web search, video search, and blog search. You tell it where on the page to sit, and then if you want to have it start out with an initial search, you can. If you don't want it to do an initial search, then the search control just stays empty until somebody actually does a search. These are the same 10 lines of code that I used on that blog to have the search form in the right column and the results in the left. I just modified the draw command to say I want it in tab mode instead of linear mode, and I want the results over here in the form over there. I mean, it's basically add 2 more lines and you get what we had on the blog, but this would be the default. When you go home tonight and play with this, this is probably what you'll copy, and then you go on from there to get to the more advanced solutions. Feeds work the same way. If you want to show a blog roll, kind of a cool blog roll of snippets from any RSS feed. Here we use Dig and TechCrunch. It's a couple lines of code. You identify the feeds that you want to attach to. You create a feed control. You add 2 feeds to the feed control, one for Dig and one for TechCrunch. You tell it to draw on where to go, and this is what comes out the other end. And remember, you don't need your IT department to do this. You can do this on any customer's website, whether it's a blog, a Google Pages, a Microsoft Spaces. It doesn't really matter to us. We really could care less. If you have the ability to edit HTML and run JavaScript on the page, you can do this kind of thing, and it adds incredible stickiness and interest to these sites just by having that extra what's hot on Dig. You can go to any one of their feeds. It could be you could be writing a mobile phone review blog that's funded by AdSense. Well, now, why not pull the Engadget's feed on digital cameras and have it be a sidebar on your page? You can do all that very easily, with minimal effort. So the architecture of this system is pretty interesting. If I was going to draw this, if I had more space, I'd draw this as an inverted pyramid. At the very bottom, we have the raw data access layer, which we like to think of as our data, your UI, and this includes all the various search properties that we've exposed so far, which is web, geographic search, local search, video search, blog search, news search, and book search, as well as a generic feed access. So all of those objects exist at a very low level that is basically a data-only level, no UI. Then the green box is our base UI layer. Those are the 2 Hello World samples that I showed you. There's the generic search control and the generic feed control, and both of those support a linear layout or a tab layout with a lot of flexibility in how you configure them. Everything that we do is done with CSS. Every single element that we put on a page has a CSS class. And all of our styling is done with CSS. So we have a default CSS that applies the basic layout and color scheme, but you're free to make things look however you want it to look. So you can use our base UI layer and still get, incredible look and feel. Like that blog integration that I did with search, the color schemes matched and the tab scheme matched. That's just a couple lines of CSS using the base control. The highest layer is what I call the advanced UI layer. I didn't really have a good name, but it's a layer that doesn't use the base UI layer at all. It's an alternate set of user interfaces that's very, very highly customized to the purpose at hand and to the underlying data source. And the reason I want to spend a lot of time on that in this talk isn't to show off that, hey, we have this thing called the map search controller or the video bar. It's really to point out that we have all those things, but those are all based on the raw data access layer, and we're trying to show off the power of the underlying system and show off that we can write those advanced controls in a matter of days, and we give those controls out in source form. So you can take those controls and modify them any way you like. You can take them and learn from them. You could take them and read them and say, oh, this is the ugliest code I've ever seen in my life. But you'll learn something along the way just by looking at it. Or you can be like millions of other users and just say, I'm just going to slap it on the page as is. It's good enough. It does what I need to do and use it as is. So we host them. You can copy them. You can learn from them. But they're there really to demonstrate the power and utility of the blue layer. So let's take a look real quick at the blue layer and how that works. Basically, you give us a feed or a search expression and call load or execute. And that starts a data access operation. What we do from there is we build a URL that is going to talk to our front-end servers. We dynamically inject a script tag. That script tag causes a request to go to servers that we have running worldwide, and that means low latency for all you guys. So you hit our servers, we go off and compute the answer, and then we respond to the script tag get with a block of JavaScript that calls our completion stub, and from there we call you. So it's basically, you give us an expression, we talk to Google, and then call your callback, passing you some JavaScript objects. And those objects typically contain an array of results, and those results can be JavaScript objects with native properties like title and URL and publish date, all very easy to consume properties. They might contain a .html property, which is a canonical HTML representation of that result that you can clone and add to your page if you like. Or you can turn that off. We don't have to generate the HTML if you don't want to. In the case of the Feed API, if you ask for XML as an answer format, we'll also give you the XML representation of the feed. If we're going to give you a piece of XML, we feel it's our duty to give you a cross-browser helper function so that you can navigate the XML without having to deal with the Microsoft versus Mozilla issues. And we also have a mixed mode format where we'll give you JavaScript properties and XML. So this is the raw data access layer. It's very, very simple to use. Anybody can get going, and we have samples that demonstrate it. But this is the kind of thing that you can do with that layer. This is our Tech Talk showcase, and we'll probably build a page like this for developer days. But this is just reading, doing video searches. And it has a tabbing system over here on the side, so you can look for most recent videos about open source, programming, internet, Java, whatever. And then we have a table of 8 results here in the center. And if you click on a thumbnail, we pop up a player and play the video on the page. So this page took one of our programmers, an hour to write. And he says that 35 minutes of that time was spent in a place called IE Hell. I don't know, how many of you have been there recently? I have just the other day. But that was the hard part of this. It wasn't the getting access to the videos or causing the playback to occur. It was getting the tables to line up properly, on IE after he had it working correctly on Firefox. So this is all very easy stuff to do. The theme, though, is our data in your UI. Here's another website, Visual DX Health. This guy has, you go to a page on cancer, you type in a search expression, and he'll show you some search results in the upper right corner matched with some images in his inventory, and then down below he has a tab search control, his own tabbing system there that's based on results from his own custom search engine. And so if you look at a page like this, what my team is supplying, what Google supplies, is a simple API, raw search results, and worldwide availability with low latency. That's our part of this page. His part of the page is he had to come up with the vision and the creativity, the page design and flow, how he wanted search to appear on his page, and the definition of the custom search engine. I don't know how much time he has into it, but it's a very, very attractive page, very well integrated with search. I'm just showing you the search results part of it. The rest of the page has other information about the topic at hand. So it's a great way to add dynamic content to the page that keeps his visitors engaged and wanting to stay on that page and learn more, versus the other kind of experience where to learn more about this subject, they'd have to go to google.com and do search, and they may never come back to his site after leaving. Here, by integrating search deeply, you're able to keep people there longer and have them stay on your site, maybe buy something from you, or maybe hear your full message if that's what you're trying to communicate. Social networking site in Germany, same idea. You don't see anything that looks like a Google search page. It's really a profile page, a member page that happens to have a search form on it. The searches are site restricted to this site, so what you're looking for is part of this social network. The search box is over there on the right-hand corner. It doesn't look like a Google search box or anything. The results are his color scheme, his layout, his pagination. You can even see his CSS mistakes where he lets the visible URL tear off to the right-hand side. So anything is possible, and it's the same basic deal. We supply the data, he supplies the UI. And not all UIs are great, but it's what you put into it. Style Hive, another example. This is some sort of what's hot right now in style site. It has a search box in the upper right-hand corner. When you do a search, they've decided to overlay the search result pane on the main portion of their page, and they have refinements that actually change the query on the fly so that you see a different set of results. But it's a clever use of the system that works well for them and their site, and presumably adds value to their customers. If we look at the base UI layer, again, we see a lot of this in action. Some of those sites would have worked equally well with the base UI layer, but this is really a get up and running quick kind of layer. Very utilitarian, but it has a lot of options, a lot of capabilities. You can style these tabs any way you like, and again, this is the Feed API, and all I've done here is added four feeds to a feed control. Said I want 7 entries at a time. I want it to be laid out in tab mode, and I want it to show up in this part of my page. And you can add that to a page in an instant. If you're writing reviews on different blogs, you can write about, and this is what's happening in these spaces, and then have that kind of blog roll that's showing 28 recent headlines from these 4 different feeds that you review. Very easy to integrate that into a site. Search API works the same way. You can see the tab structure in the feed control and the tab structure in the search control, the base UI. Tabbing is an option. If you don't specify tabbing, then you get a linear layout. So it's one of the two. You can use the same CSS tricks to style the tabs and style the headers and style the results. But it's the same basic model. You create the control, you add into the control what you want to add into the control, you tell it that you want it in tabbed, and then you tell it to draw itself. So very simple model. Our goal is, if you learn how to program one of these systems, you can pretty much automatically program the other one just as easily. The advanced UI layer, this is where most of the action is for us and for our customers. I mean, the text-based, the base UI layer, the text-based utility search is popular in a lot of sites that are basically just integrating a text-based search into their systems. But it's this advanced UI layer where we've seen the most traction. And again, what we're trying to show, we started this as samples. We built these things to show people how to use the raw UI layer. And then we decided that instead of just showing them off as samples, let's host the samples so that people can run the controls live. But they demonstrate what this system can really do if you spend some time coding against it. You guys are free to download and modify them, borrow ideas, redistribute any way you like. You don't have to attribute the coding skills to us. We're not under, these things are no copyright, no licensing, do whatever you want with the code. It's really learning samples for you to take advantage of any way you like. But a lot of people are just using them as is. We have a lot of point and click wizards for these things. So if you don't want to spend the time, calling the code correctly to get up and running quickly, you go through a wizard. It will generate some code, and then you can put it on a page and then customize from there. So starting with a wizard or starting with an empty page is your choice. We've done some experimentation by adding these directly into Blogger so that you can add these controls to a blog by just manipulating a page element. If any of you guys have competing systems, TypePad or Movable Type or any of those, WordPress, whatever, building plugins for that kind of mimic what we do in Blogger, might be something of interest to your users. So Video Bar is probably our most popular custom solution. And what this is in these 10 lines of code, I decide, I want 8 results or 4 results. I want a video bar that's looking for these search expressions. I want the bar to go here on my page. I want the player to go over there on my page, and then fire it up. That's all you have to do to get videos on your page. And I'll show you that real quick also. So if I come over to this tab here, you can see I have a video bar and I have an integrated player. And this is playing, it'll play YouTube videos or Google videos, so I can put in Blue Angels, preview the video bar, and that generated this code for me. I can click on one of those videos and play it. If I think my site is going to work best with a vertical layout, I select the vertical layout tab, and now I get a taller strip of videos, and I can still play these. And I can position the player anywhere I want on the page. I can have multiple videos, bars sharing the same player. So it's a great way to add interest and stickiness to your page. Because if your site is about jet fighters or aircraft and you have a strip of videos like this on your page, people will probably watch a video every now and then. And they might click on an ad nearby or buy what you're selling. I don't know what your sites are about. But you can put in multiple search expressions in here. And we'll cycle through the different videos pretty quickly, I think. Yeah, so this is the effects that we have. We'll keep flipping back and forth videos in random sequence or linear sequence. You select the time delay, and then you can play them. So that's kind of one of our big hits. The slideshow is one of our newest custom controls. I showed you this before, but this is the idea where you give us a feed and say, I want to create a slideshow, and I want it to appear on my page here. I mean, literally, this is the code that produces this page. It's not, edit your PHP and talk to your server config guy and build some Apache proxy and reboot a server and push some new bits out. It's open up the HTML of a page that you want a slideshow on and put in these 5 lines of code, and you have a slideshow. That's what we're talking about. So I can show you a slideshow in action. This is our typical landing page that describes how to use the slideshow. And here we're reading feeds from Picasa, Flickr, or a custom feed over here. And you can see they've got nice transition effects. you pause and you can hover and pause. But imagine if you're a realtor selling a nice house, and you want to talk about the house, how many bedrooms it has, and what the neighborhood is, and this and that. But instead of making people click through an album, don't force them to go through any kind of action to see the house. Capture their interest by having a slideshow on the page. They don't have to do anything, no click actions, and you'll start feeding them pictures of the house in real time. As soon as they land on that page, you're going to start pulling in the feed of photos for that house and showing them off in the upper right-hand corner, sort of the same way that we did with this blog, showing, a rotating photo slideshow in the upper corner. You can still have a link over there that says you want to see more, you want to see them bigger, click here and I'll take you to another piece of the page. But you can draw them in with some simple eye candy like this, and you can do it with 3 lines of code. The news bar, this was another one. I can't really give you numbers of how popular this thing is, but I can tell you that we launched this with a blog post to a geeky blog, our AJAX Search API blog. And I don't know how many people subscribe to it. I don't subscribe to it. I write it. But it's something that not many people subscribe to. I can't imagine why anybody would unless they were geeks and wanted to learn about the API. But we write about the news bar in that blog post. That's our marketing. And the next day, we had 2 orders of magnitude increase in the news search volume. This thing is everywhere you look. I mean, Linux, www.linux.pl has a news bar at the top. I mean, it's some popular Polish Linux website, and it shows rotating headlines on Linux on this Polish website. But this thing comes in 2 varieties. It comes in horizontal mode or vertical mode. You give it a bunch of topics, news topics that you want it to search across, and it'll show you a rotating view of those news headlines. If you have a sidebar-oriented page and it makes more sense for you to do it vertically, great. If you have less real estate but still want to show some news that's of interest to your readers, then use the horizontal mode. The horizontal mode is kind of nice. It fades in and out, and it's really pretty cool. And the vertical mode gives you slightly different options. But both are very, very popular out in the wild. I mean, way, way more popular than we ever could have imagined. Map search. This is this idea of, a lot of people are the guys in the geo track probably know how to code to maps and how to do some very clever things with maps, but there's a lot of people that just don't. I mean, they want their page to have something like this, like a conference site or a small bed and breakfast or a hotel or a doctor's office or a store or whatever. They want a map on their page where their business is the center of the map, but they want people to find things nearby the map. It could be, Target might have a map as part of its store finder, and they might find value in letting people find the nearest dry cleaner or the bank or the nearest McDonald's while they're looking for Starbucks, so that you can find this store, find this business, and then also do other errands when you're in that area. This map search solution is perfect for that kind of scenario. And again, we're talking about, this is the code to get a map that looks like this. You tell us, what do you want the title of the center point to be? Is there a URL associated with the center point? So if you click on it, you go somewhere. And then what's the center point of the map? That's all you have to do to get a map like this on your page. So if your client is running a conference or a hotel and you want to snazz it up for them, you can do this without having to know anything about the Maps API. We have obviously more than that. We have the iTunes bar, the book bar, a different kind of video search control. The same thing that we did for news, we did for blogs in the form of a blog bar. So we have a fair number of these things that are really all based on that baseline raw data access layer. The complete list of controls: news, video, maps, blogging, slideshows, iTunes. Then we also have a bunch of wizards, and this is the next level up in the food chain. The guys that can't start with a clean slate they start with a wizard, we generate the code for them, and then they can cut and paste it onto any page. It's a very simple 4-step process. You tell us about options and hit the go button, and we generate some code. So I want to show you a screenshot and a demo of that. So like, for instance, this map thing, if you wanted to start with a clean slate, you tell us the size of the map that you want, what kind of zoom level you want on the map, tell us about the center point, and away we go. So I'll show you that real quick here. This is the map search wizard, and you can see I've specified a 365 by 275, so a little tiny map. While I have that map in here, I can search for, coffee places and see what's nearby, scroll through the results and see where all those coffee places are. I can change the center point, and now my map is centered in this part of town rather than up in Redmond. So this is all you have to do, and then when you hit the generate code button, we'll give you the block of HTML and script that you then just cut and paste onto your page, and you have a map. So it's literally that simple to get up and running with this stuff. And from there, you can tweak it any way you like if the stock configuration isn't quite what you were looking for. We've done the same thing with video search, where you give us a list of search expressions, tell us about your site, and we'll go create a video search control that looks like this. And once you have this as a template, you can go edit it, or you can use it as is. So this is how people would create a video search control and then cut and paste it and put it in the sidebar of their blog. It's literally that simple. We've gone in Blogger, because it is a content management system, we've gone to the next level and said, well, let's write some plugins for Blogger that don't involve any kind of cut and pasting or any kind of coding at all. These are just these things called page elements in Blogger, where you go to edit your layout and you say, you know what, I want to add some news or add some videos, and we present you with a form like this, and you just hit save changes and we'll put it in your blog. This is the other sort of thing that caused a big uptick in traffic, if you will, as the bloggers found that, oh my God, it's even easier than we thought. We don't have to know anything about the template system. All we have to do is say, we want one of these things on our pages. So you guys that are into that same sort of space, building the Web 2.0 user-generated content sort of wikis and page creation environments and collab sites, you might want to let your users have the ability to put things like this on the site very, very easily with these kind of point-and-click wizards. Our wizards are also URL callable too, so you can do some things like that if you need to. But this would, doing a full-on integration is the best way to go. So we've done that for news. We've done that for video, for the video bar, and we're in the process of doing that for the slideshow, so that you can, pick a feed, pick a tag. We'll pick a source, in this case, Photo Bucket. Pick a tag. We'll take those two together and generate a feed URL. Or if you just have your own feed and you have a URL, you can dump the URL in the box, and then we'll just plop it onto your blog. So I think the last thing that I want to show before we open up to Q&A is some stuff that we're working on the horizon. So we've done a lot of stuff around mapping where we control a map and we add search to the map. So that whole map search solution is really, we're building a map for you and adding search to the map. For guys that are already fluent in the Maps API, they already have their Maps application. Some of them just want to add search very easily. So we've come up with this way of adding a local search control directly to an existing map. So if any of you are familiar with the Maps API, you know that you add a map control, the thing on the left-hand side that lets you zoom in and out. You do that by calling add control and passing in a control. You add the type control, the satellite hybrid regular mode, by adding a control called a map type control. We've taken the exact same approach and say that, well, okay, if you want search on your map, add a control called local search, And the result is a page that looks like this. It's a map. It's your design, your entire page. But when you add that control, we put a little search box on your map. So you can do searches in line in any map application by adding, pretty much one line of code. And I'll show you that right here too. So here's a map. Here's an existing map. And what we've overlaid on top of this map, this is kind of fun, is a feed, a sports-oriented feed. So imagine this being a sports website, Giants versus Dodgers haters website or whatever. So we pull some feeds on the Giants, on the Dodgers, and on sports in general, and we overlay that onto the map using absolute positioning. And then we have the search control over here, so we can search for AT&T Park. I think that's the name of it. And sure enough, there we are. And we can zoom in on the map, turn it into satellite mode, and zoom in. And while we're there, we might say, wow, if we're going to be there anyway, where is the closest Starbucks? You just saw a bug there. Okay, there's the Starbucks within walking distance to the park. But this is this pretty cool little thing where if you're a Maps API user already and you already have a solution and you want search on it, it's basically one line of code to get that effect. I mean, you add this line in red and you have search on your map. And one step further, this is just another view of it. This time we're experimenting with inline ads. So, I think you guys should all leave here and at least go look at the code.google.com/API/AJAX site. Take a look at the site. Play around with the samples. We have a huge number of samples for you to learn from. Try using the search control or feed control. If you don't have a page that's quickly accessible, just go create a blog and muck around with the template. Do it in TypePad or do it in Blogger. Or use Google Pages as another great place where you can just create a dummy HTML page and put whatever you want in there. And try adding map or video to your page. Try the news bars if you have a Blogger blog. But take a look and give this stuff a shot. So with that, I have time for questions. If anybody has questions, just please use the mic when you have a question. Is my presentation online? I know it's on YouTube video, and I don't know what they're doing with the presentations. I know I had to give them a PDF, so the presentations are somewhere. I don't know where they are, though. So, yeah.
Sorry, with the feed control, which I already use, I'm wondering if you're thinking about adding a horizontal layout to the vertical one, not like the news bar where it's one headline at a time, but just so you can have the elements laid out horizontally instead of vertically.
I don't know if they would fit. I mean, we're having to chop. The titles can get pretty long, so I'm not sure what you would mean by horizontally. But if you can draw it up, I mean, anything's possible. We could take that and just position the divs differently that hold the different sections, and it would be horizontal.
All I know is it took a lot of digging through the CSS to get that out of the map.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, I have two questions. The first one is, are you going to insert ads in the AJAX API, or in the return of AJAX API?
Ads are already in the AJAX API. I mean, if we go to one of these pages here, I'll go to this one here, and I'm just going to do a search for Toyota Camry. And you can see I have organic search results at the top, and then I have sponsored links down below on the bottom. So ads currently show up on web search results.
The second question is, are you going to prevent someone building a SOAP or REST API based on your AJAX API? If yes, how?
Wait a second. Am I going to prevent somebody from violating the terms of use, and if so, how?
Oh, okay.
I can't tell you that. We frown on people not abiding by terms of use. That doesn't mean that we're going to catch everybody or stop everybody, but we definitely frown on it. It's a fragile practice. If I want to scrape Google search, if I want to get Google web search results, I personally would not use this API. I personally would call the google.com HTML interface and scrape the HTML. That's how I would scrape search results. Or I'd use Yahoo's API. You know, they have a REST API that delivers 5,000 results a day or something. AJAX Search API is a convenience search API to help you build better web pages, to build a better experience for your users. It gives you 8 results at a time. It's not a tool for doing deep research. It's a tool for adding highly, highly relevant, the most highly relevant dynamic content possible to your websites and your pages. It's not a tool for doing SEO research or you know, deep research on search.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When are they going to make Google Translator available as an AJAX API?
When are we making Google Translator available as an API? Ollie, why don't you put that on your list? I don't know the answer to that. I know that there is some experimentation with that in some limited settings, but you know, it's not a full-blown API yet. Yes?
2 questions. First, is there any plans for support for filtering out adult content from a random set of pictures that you would return?
Are there any plans of filtering out adult content from pictures? So the only place where we support pictures today is in the Feed API,
Right.
and we're not the provider of those feeds. The person using the API is selecting the feeds that they want to use. So whoever is supplying those feeds would be doing adult content filtering, and presumably they'd make that an argument to the feed URL. You know, we have no visibility on that. We don't control the feeds in any way. We're just kind of the middleman acting as a proxy for you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have a minute or two for one more, and then we'll break. I think we have the whole AJAX APIs team is going to be in the other room. You're holding up a sign that I have no idea what it says. Oh, I'm done. Thank you.